Like if I had a Cash App, I'd give it out so y'all could buy me a drink. Because this girl right here, finished my screenplay. Shannon E. Johnson here, CEO of The Professional Pen, where we develop screenwriters from idea to pitch. Need help in your screenplay? Go to www.theprofessionalpen.com. It's time for an accountability check-in. So I actually finished my screenplay weeks ago, and I had not had time to come and talk to you guys about it. But even bigger than that, I haven't had time to start my revisions process. Right? Because we've talked about staying dedicated, being disciplined, and writing. I have had no time. Okay. But I still wanted to talk to you about my process. Those of you who have been following know this a little bit. Those of you who are hearing it for the first time, welcome. I decided at the beginning of the year, around March, that I was going to write 3 screenplays this year. As you can see, I've only written 1. Howsoever, I probably started really writing this one sometime around June. So June, July, August, September, October. I finished it literally probably the first week of October. So 4 months, because this is what I wanted to prove. This is why I said I was going to write 3 this year, but my life it was what it was. But what I wanted to prove to you is that you can write more than 1 screenplay per year if you have a process. Because if you have a process, then it shouldn't take you that long, if you actually take the time to write, to finish your screenplay. So had I actually done March, April, May, June, that'd be 1 screenplay. July, August, September, October, that'd be 2. And then I'd be in the middle of my 3rd one. So I still plan to start writing the 2nd one before this year is over. I will not finish it because I don't even have time to do my revisions right now. I know I'm not going to have time to finish the screenplay, but I'm going to start my pre-work. Hopefully I can get to an outline before the end of this year. I can do that in 2 months if I have time to write. Okay. So what does that process look like? I start with the Pixar Formula, because this is the best way for me to know what my story is. It's the best way for me to see the cause and effect of the simplest form of my story. The second thing I do is I break down my characters. I need to know who they are, why they are, what they like, what they want, what they need, what they're afraid of, all of the things that are going to motivate them to reach their goals. Then I do a goals worksheet, which is about making the characters active in attaining their goals, because we know that every single story, every single one of them is about a character trying to reach a goal or trying to solve a problem. We are there to watch them try to do this thing, whether they fail or succeed. Then I go into my roadmap, which for some people, they'll do a beat sheet and an outline. Some people will only do a beat sheet. Some people will only do an outline. I do both because the beat sheet is, again, the simplest way of seeing what all of the scenes and sequences will be. The outline is an expanded version of that in paragraph form. So I basically figure out my entire screenplay before I start writing it. I mean, almost every single detail. Not a whole lot of dialogue, maybe a few lines here and there, but generally speaking, this is about the action and about knowing where my story is going. I do all of that ahead of time. Because I do that process, I'm able to move through the script quickly once I make it to the script. So my feature right now is too long, as I told you guys before. It's maybe 128 pages, and I want to get it down to definitely less than 120. I really want it to be 110. I don't think I'm gonna make that, so that's why I need to revise it. I was able to write that 128 pages in a span of 2 or 3 weeks. But that was when I had a whole lot of time, baby. And anytime I had 25 minutes, I was writing. Anytime. I was writing for hours. I was writing for minutes. I was always writing. But a lot of that was just copying and pasting, copying and pasting, copying and pasting. So now what happens? Before I send it in for notes, I'm going to do a revision myself. This is for people who actually understand what some of the problems are in the first place. If you're at a place where you're like, I wrote it, I don't know what's wrong with it, send it for notes. Or you wrote it, you know what's wrong with it, but you need some other people to confirm it for you, send it out for notes. If you wrote it and you know what's wrong with it, and you feel like you can take a pass through it to work out some of those kinks yourself, that's why you go into your second draft, right? For most people, you're going to have to do a second draft. What I want people to get out of doing this kind of process is that your first draft does not have to be garbage. My first drafts are never garbage, but that's because of the amount of work I do before I write the first draft. So it doesn't mean I'm not going to have a second draft, a third draft. Once I start getting notes from people, you're going to have more drafts. If and when I sell it or develop it or produce it or whatever, there are going to be more notes or there are going to be more drafts. You cannot get away from actual revising and rewriting. That's going to happen, especially once you start collaborating with people. But when it's just you, you have to be honest with yourself about what needs to be done. And if you don't know what it needs, send it out for notes to the professional pen. We'll do development notes. We do page by page, line by line feedback, actionable and objective. Okay, this is not about what we like, what we want to watch. It's about what's going to be best to help you execute what you're trying to execute. Okay. So where I am is I need to trim. I know that there are scenes in here I probably don't need, that there are scenes in here that are slowing down the pacing. I like to be very detailed. So I have to remind myself as a writer that I don't have to see every single moment on the screen. That in screenwriting, you get to jump a little bit, right? Also, because I like to write a slow burn and because I like to write things that are based in the South and I want it to purposefully kind of move slowly, I also write a lot of entrances. I don't necessarily write a lot of exits, right? So you'll hear people say, get in late and leave early. I often don't get in late, but I will leave early. So this means go back, Shannon, and see some of these places where you can get in late, where we don't have to see people arrive. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to see all of that little goings on before we get to the thing. Because also the director can decide that they want to add the entrance. Shannon, you don't have to put it in there. That's how I feel about like establishing shots. You don't have to put the establishing shot in there. The director will decide what they want to do with that. You know, so that's some of the stuff that can make my screenplay a little bit shorter. Also, I like to write out my action. Sometimes I will have just one word on one line and that's it. But that takes up space. So I have to go back and make sure that I'm not taking up too much real estate by doing that. Also, my script does open up with a series of shots and not chaos, but an event that is meant to feel like frenetic and fast. And there's interviews happening and there's this happening. If you've ever watched the movie Friday Night Lights, it kind of opens up like that because it's football Friday and they're getting everybody excited. And so you're just kind of jumping around. So a lot of this is important to me. And I know that if we film it, it's going to go by like this. But when you read it, it's taking up 5 pages and I want it to take up 2.5. Right? So I have to go back and decide, well, which images am I willing to take out? But it won't take away from the tone of what I want people to feel. I have to be able to make that decision. While I'm doing this, I am going to have another document, my document that I've been working through this entire time, where I have my Pixar formula and my outline and all that other stuff. I have a sheet within that document where I'm dumping all of the stuff that I'm not using. I am making a new draft, so I'm just going to save as revised. And then in that revision, as I'm trimming things, I'm taking that out and putting it into my dump. Because later on, I might need some of that stuff. Later on, I might go, oh no, I need that back, right? Now, once I go through it and I trim it as much as I can, because I personally don't think I'm going to be able to lose 18 pages. I would love to. That is a lie. I'm not going to make it, right? So that means I need another set of eyes. I already had someone give me notes on my outline. So this time around, I'm not necessarily looking for story notes like on that level. We've already kind of done some of that work, but I do want to know if it makes sense to this person. I do want to know how they feel as they're going along the ride. And I want to know, is there something in there that I don't need? Or have I taken out something and now you're confused about something? Now, when I send my scripts to people to read, I usually will give them those kind of prompts, right? Because that's the thing that I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for. It doesn't mean that they can't give me extra notes because they're going to see something that I don't see. That's the whole point of having somebody else do your notes, right? But I know what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for them to help me to go, yeah, okay, I'm on the right track, or go, no, it's fine, or no, you're totally off base. Like, this is actually what you need to do, right? So that's what I'm seeking to do. I would love to finish my revision over the next 2 weeks so that I can send it out for notes like before Thanksgiving. And guess what I'm going to do when I send it out for notes? I am not going to touch the script. I'm not going to even think about it. It doesn't even exist while it's out for notes. Leave your script alone, because it's going to be so different to you when you read it after having taken your eyes off of it. Leave it alone. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do is start writing on my next screenplay. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start writing. I'm going to keep the momentum going. And then when I get my notes back, I will consider which notes I want to use, and I will do one more. You hear me? One more pass before I decide to take it to wherever it is I'm going to take it. Because like I said before, drafts are going to keep coming. Notes are going to keep coming. What I'm looking to do is get it in the hands of the people who can do something with it. So as long as I think that it's representative of what I want it to be, I don't care about how you feel. If it's representative of who I am as a writer and the story is clear as I can make it, and other people have told me they read it and it was clear to them, even if they read it and said, this is terrible, Shannon, I don't like it. I don't care, right? What I'm looking for is it was clear, you understand, you were invested. Even if you're like, it's that kind of thing I would watch, kind of goes a little slow for me. As I told you guys before, I'm purposefully going a little bit slow. If it's way too slow, fine, right? But I'm purposefully like, you in here for a ride. So that's my plan. Are you writing? Where are you in your writing? Happy writing!
The professional pen. The